Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday Night Music Show. Pastor Jay will be joining us here in just a little bit. The show is brought to you by DJ Event Planner, and you can check them out in the description of this video on YouTube, along with some of our other sponsors. Thank you for sponsoring us. Can you imagine somebody sponsors this?
Yeah. They do.
How do you think they could afford to bring me on, Brian?
I guess, right?
Seem to like us.
I guess. So tonight we have Matt, and we have Howie, and we have Eric, and we have Boston John with his record roundup. I know he's got something real sweet for us this week.
I do. Shall we kick it off?
Yeah, what do you got?
I'm taking the cues last week when you pulled up Jody Watley, and I started to think of R&B singers that don't really get the love they deserve. The Forgotten.
That was a hell of an album.
The Jody Watley album is a good album.
The self-titled Jody Watley album is amazing.
So the two that I pulled, one for the now and later. The first one we'll go with is a young lady whose name is Michele.
Oh, yeah. She's interesting.
She is very interesting. Her backstory, let me tell you, she's making everything turn orange here because of her blue cover. But the track, the one that charted is this one, the 12-inch single, No More Lies.
Yes.
She was on
Nicety, too. Wasn't that her song?
Nicety was the other single.
Yep.
She's on Ruthless Records, which was Dr. Dre's label. She was actually married to him, which I found out for a bunch of years until they separated, and then she ended up marrying Suge Knight. So she's embedded in the California culture. Still with us. She was had a TV show in the 90s. It was the R&B Divas of Cali or something. But that's a forgotten one, and that's kind of got that new jack bop to it. It's the two tracks, like we had said. The No More Lies is super catchy. Nicety is kind of more of a
I don't mind the
one.
Song. It's a bop, as they call it today. Yes,
it is a bop. So that was 89, 90. She didn't do much else after that. She did some backing vocals for Tupac, like she's on America's Most Wanted with Cube on one, and I think she's on a couple other West Coast well-known peoples. So this was co-produced by Dr. Dre, executive producer Eazy-E, Eric Wright, also from NWA.
Right.
They're on Ruthless Records until Suge Knight stepped in and took over. And they took, she was one of the three they took. It was Dre, her, and the DOC that went on to Suge's label. So
what was cool about her, I thought it was interesting. And then I was just, funny enough, I was just thinking about this before the show. I have a very low tolerance for high-pitched voices, especially when women get older. Like my mother, if my mother speaks normally, it's okay. But if my mom starts getting loud, it's actually painful to me. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe it's a good thing that men, when they age, lose their hearing, because then they don't have to deal with this so much. Maybe that's what happened.
The squawky tone, the timbre, the higher register.
Yeah. Where Michele had like the squeakiest voice in the world. Her speaking voice was annoying, like a child, but like really loud. But her singing voice had some baritone to it almost.
Yes, she was traditional R&B. It was
baritone, but you know what I mean. It was
the voice was a put on, kind of like Fran Drescher doing The Nanny. It's just really over.
I don't know if Michele's voice was a put on or not. Was it? I don't know. But she had a squeaky speaking voice, but a beautiful singing voice.
Yeah, towards the end of the song, she belts out a few notes, and it doesn't sound like the clothespin on the nose.
Not nasally at all.
So I think she did that on purpose to make it stand
maybe she
out.
did. Maybe she did. But I was just thought that it was interesting. Whenever I'd seen an interview with her, it was like, I just want to take pencils and stab them in my ears because I couldn't stand it. But she sang like an angel.
I feel the same way about the boy bands from the 60s.
Frankie Valli kind of stuff.
Yeah, with that falsetto, I was like, no.
A little much, yeah. If it's done well, it's done well. But yeah, I feel you on that. It's just a pitch that I don't like.
Well, it depends who's delivering it. We like the Bee Gees. Barry can get up there too, but that's
I like
different,
Yeah, but I can't listen to Barry anymore because he's trying to do it and he has no business doing it anymore.
Yeah.
He sounded okay doing it in the 70s. It wasn't the best, but the harmonies were wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, now he has no business even attempting it. He just doesn't.
It's as painful as what was his name from Van Halen?
Sammy Hagar?
Yeah, no. David Lee Roth, when he did his so-called residency in Vegas.
Oh yeah.
He embarrassed himself. He stood up on the decks, a little booth area, and oh my God, I felt embarrassed to be a human being.
Well, at one time he was a hero to many, and he was pretty cool, and he wasn't the best singer, but I thought he was cool. He had an interesting voice, not a great voice, but an interesting voice. But yeah, when we get older, we lose it, I guess. Sometimes.
Great front end, interesting voice.
Some do, some don't.
Yes, he was, but not anymore.
Sure, you got to know when to say when. You got to know.
Yeah.
That's an interesting pick. Eric has a single this week as well, he was telling me.
I have a single that come out, I want to say August 2019. And it's spent, and today I believe it's the longest running number one single of all time.
Oh God, I know what you're going to say.
19 weeks. I know, and I'm not a big fan of the song. I'm not even a big fan of the song. Never was.
It's bad.
But it was Lil Nas X and Billy Ray Cyrus. Old Town Road.
Okay.
And to me, I never liked the song. How it stayed number one that long is beyond me. Why I brought it up was just, it's interesting because country radio was playing it, and then they banned it in 2020, saying it's not country enough.
Yeah.
Well, because they said it wasn't country enough.
Because it was a hit.
That was their reason. Anyway, But that was my pick of the way. I just thought, you know what? It's 9. I don't know if anybody beat 19 weeks yet at number one yet. I thought for sure the Beatles would have, but
no.
I don't know. The most number ones, I think. But
I think it shows you how incredibly meaningless charting is today.
How many times now have you been requested to play that? Flash in the pan, even though it's 19 weeks at number one. Nobody asked for that.
It's forgotten just as quickly. Yep.
Even when it was hot back then, people would request. I'd find a reason not to play it because you really can't dance to it either. It's nothing. To me, it's not. It wasn't great.
It doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
Well, couldn't you hold your belt buckle like this and then just move your legs side to side?
Yeah, well, I'm sure they have plenty.
You'll have to wear a cowboy hat and shorts, though, for that, right, Brian?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's a good intro song, maybe a good sing-along song. Yeah.
Well, go ahead, Matt. Tell us what you got this week. You've got to.
Well, let's see here.
He's got some physical media for us.
I do have some physical media right here.
Nice.
Check out this pick right here, the baddest beats of Tommy Boy.
Nice.
In the discount rack.
Wow.
At my local record store. $16 for this. So, I mean.
Is that a single LP?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Side A and B. So we do have some Naughty by Nature on here, Hip Hop Array. Just going to go through a few of these here. 2 Coolio songs, one being his version of Fantastic Voyage.
Yeah, that was the big one.
And then Gangsta's Paradise.
That was the other big one.
Digital Underground, The Humpty Dance. Naughty by Nature again with OPP.
Yep.
I don't know if I said this one already, but House of Pain, Jump Around.
No. Yeah, right on.
Yeah, so
that's a good
usable content. Yep.
And a few others on here too. 10-track album, but I mean some heavy hitters.
Yeah.
So
no, Tommy Boy was a cool label there for a minute.
Yeah.
Well, you got that in front of you, Matt. Was De La Soul on that? I think De La Tommy Boy.
They might have been on Tommy Boy, but they're not on this.
Yeah, okay.
So the other artists we have on here are Stetasonic, Queen Latifah, K7, and Apache with the song Gangsta B. Let's just say.
That's the one filler song.
Yeah. As opposed to the song Apache by Sugar Hill Gang, which probably would have been
yeah. The real interesting one is if you're interested, is the first one, and that would be Apache by Incredible Bongo Band. That's what you should listen to. It's
check that out.
It's got to be from the late '60s, and it's got some breaks in it that just became really famous. It was first used, to my knowledge, in Sugar Hill Gang's Apache, but then Grandmaster Flash used the drums for it as part of his Adventures on the Wheels of Steel mix that he does. But if you're like a DJ, like a turntablist, and you're, I don't know, under 45 years old, and you're like really a turntablist, you've got an Apache routine that you use Incredible Bongo Band for. Many DJs have it. And it's
I've seen a turntable released recently that's making me want to be a turntablist, but that's another topic for another time.
Yeah, they're fun. But I think you had to be there. I really think you had to be there. It's one of those things.
Yeah.
Kind of like muscle cars. Sort of.
Yeah.
Howie, do you have something for us this week?
Yes, I do. I don't have physical media
It's okay.
on hand, but the band is Tame Impala, and the album is Lonerism, and it actually has 3 different variations of the same song called Elephant. And my favorite is the one that was remixed by the one and only Todd Rundgren. And that came out in 2012. So it's, I guess it's not even a throwback yet, or an oldie, being that it's only 13 years old. So that's my pick.
Right on. We were kind of burning time for Jay to come for Record Roundup, but he'll come and we'll let him go last. I want to talk about an album that we've never brought up, and it's really one of my favorite albums. And I'm surprised no one's mentioned it, or this band really. I don't believe anyone's mentioned it. And in that album, and I'll pull it out here. I have a few here, just for reference purposes. Really, when this came out, it blew my mind, and that would be Supertramp Breakfast in America. This is a great album.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
If you don't know this album, get familiar with this album. Interestingly enough, I think that this is the album that came before it. This is Even in the Quietest Moments. And Even in the Quietest Moments is a nice song. And it's got the song on it called Give a Little Bit.
Yeah.
And Give a Little Bit is, I think Give a Little Bit belonged on Breakfast in America. It had the same spirit to it, and the same production qualities, and the same quality songwriting. Even in the Quietest Moments sounds like the old Supertramp, like it could have been on Crime of the Century or something. But Give a Little Bit, that song sounds like everything to me on Breakfast in America. Like it was like the same session or something, but obviously wasn't. But
Does that have The Long Way Home? Take the Long Way Home?
This has Take the Long Way Home on it. Yeah. It has, well, the flip side of the Logical Song, which is a great song, is Just Another Nervous Wreck, which is a really good song. I don't have my glasses on, so I was actually pulling up pages here so I could take a look and tell you what the track listing was. Breakfast in America is a really good song, and I think it was redone by
Cupid's Chokehold.
Was it? Somebody redid it.
Yeah, recently, the last 5 years or whatever.
Yeah,
maybe longer now, but modernized it a little bit, but kept the integrity.
I think there was one before that, and it was like one of those Disney bands did it or something. But Take the Long Way Home is indeed on there. Goodbye Stranger, another great song. Gone Hollywood, which is a good song. The Logical Song, and Just Another Nervous Wreck, which is actually a really good song if you've never heard it. Those are the standouts. But this is one of the, to my recollection, one of the first just really well-produced albums that I can remember hearing, just as a whole album, where it was just done right. The writing was done right. The writing was fantastic. The production is great.
Very radio friendly too. Like there's a lot of singles. You get a lot of that. Everybody, that's like a Frampton record. Everybody had that in their house in the 70s.
Right. But you know, what's fun for me is to always think, you know, what made you buy it? Like if you bought this, what was the song that made you buy this? For me, I bought the Logical song. I flipped out on that track. That track blew my gourd. And like I said, the flip side of that was just another nervous wreck. Now, my sister's boyfriend or whatever had the 8-track, so we got to hear the whole album. But I think the Logical song was probably the first single and arguably the strongest single off the album. The most interesting song. But Take the Long Way Home and Give a Little Bit are fantastic as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was just surprised that no one's brought up Supertramp, you know, because and specifically this album, there were so many good albums that came out around this time. Mm-hmm. It might have got a little lost in the mix when people were, you know, thinking back to you know, what really was an amazing buy. You know, the Cars' first album was really good. Boston's first album was really good.
Right.
You know, Van Halen's first album. This was not their first. This was like their third or fourth album, but very good. And then, they had the single "It's Raining Again" after that, and then they released this weirdo album that I actually really like Cannonball off of. Brother, Where Are You Bound?
Yeah,
Cannonball is different. It doesn't sound like Supertramp, but I liked it. Anyway, I just want to talk about Supertramp. I just want an excuse to do it. So
that's a great pick. Yeah, good record.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Good memory jogger.
Memories.
It's really good. I mean, yeah. I mean, Howie was there. John, you know, Matt, you might not have been there yet, but we were there.
No, but I'm familiar with. You know, I'm a fan of their music. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. Like, I mean, what did you say? Goodbye, Stranger, Howie?
No, I picked Take the Long Way Home.
Take the Long Way Home. Yeah, that's a great song.
The reason I bought it was it came on in the radio in my truck, my 52 Dodge pickup, after I'd just broken up with my girlfriend at the time. And I was like, what am I going to do? You know, it's like your first girlfriend and you're picking up and I know you're feeling sorry for yourself. And I'm like, well, I'm thinking take the long way home, you know, and I did. I just did not want to go home.
I think if memory serves, the song is kind of about taking the path less traveled. It's about, okay, so maybe life isn't exactly what you thought it would be, but you keep doing the same thing over and over again. So try something different.
Yes.
Just try something different and take the long way home.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I don't know, just really insightful tracks on this album.
Mm-hmm.
A Logical song, I can't remember the guy who wrote it and the guy who sang. I don't remember. There's two singers in the band, but the guy who sings Logical song wrote it. And I guess he went to like prep school. He went like sent away to like a all boys boarding school. And the song that he wrote was about his experiences there. And he spent a few years writing the song, like when they were touring, just like he'd play around with it and sound check and not say a word. Didn't present it to anybody until right before they were ready to do this album. And he refined it and they dug it. So, but yeah, a lot of good tracks on that album though. I don't know.
Definitely.
It was an expensive decade for us people.
Yeah, you had to buy everything. And that was what was so much fun back in those days. Was going to someone's house and going through their record collection. You could tell a lot about a person.
Yeah.
You know, because it wasn't like there weren't 30 albums you wanted to buy. It was which albums do you pick because you can't afford all 30.
Exactly.
That was the tell. You know, that was the real tell. I think.
Or you'd have to wait, like Matt said, till it was in the, in that off.
The side bin or Columbia House Records. You got the 12 discs for a penny, maybe, if you would like
to play that game.
Now you can have Steve Miller and Bob Seger. All right, you don't have to choose. You don't have to pick between them.
Two for $5.
Eric, you had a thought.
Let's not forget, many years later, they come out with It's Raining Again.
Well, that was a single.
Right, all right. But
oddly enough, that was a single right before they did Brother, Where You Bound. I think they probably should have put it on that album because Cannonball was the only thing they had on there that anybody heard. But I always thought that, before I owned it, I thought It's Raining Again was on Brother Where Are You Bound, but it's not. It was a single all by itself. It wasn't a non-album track.
I kind of like that one. I like that song.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
And that was the last time we heard him sing on a hit. Because Cannonball was sang by the other guy.
Yeah.
Who sings like Just a Nervous Wreck and Bloody Well Right.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
That guy.
Whatever. I can't remember their names. Probably Ian somebody. They're all Ian over there. I don't know. Ian Smith and Ian Davies. I don't know who the hell they are. I don't know. I'm probably going to get browbeat in the comment section over that. I don't remember the names. I do know that the guy who sings Logical Song, he's no longer with Supertramp, but I saw something on him a while back where he was doing an acoustic tour, and stuff sounds great. He's still got the chops, so he plays the song with the acoustic guitar and sings the songs, and it sounds fantastic. So, but anyway, yeah, Supertramp. I liked Crime of the Century too. I mean, I like Bloody Well Right and Dreamer. They were fine. But I really think that, this I like artist development. I like it when you like, we joke about AC/DC a lot. They've been making the same album for 40 years, and they kind of have. I like it whenever every album's a little different. To me, that's interesting. It doesn't sound like anybody else. They're doing something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And that used to be encouraged in the music business. It's not anymore.
Right.
So
at least AC/DC rearranges the same three chords in a few different ways. There's a couple of ways you can shuffle that. Maybe add a fourth one.
And the guy sings like he's constipated, and it's just
the Donald Duck voice. Yeah.
I don't hate AC/DC. I've just heard AC/DC.
Right.
It's different.
Someone says there's a new record out. You're like, let me tell you how it goes before you even heard a track. I've been. Yep, someone's gonna go.
Yeah. I feel that way a little bit about Zeppelin, and not to step on any toes, but yeah.
Well, sometimes, but I mean, if you listen to it in chronological order, they did grow. They did. They went from kind of like 60s. Almost psychedelic sounding, Whole Lot of Love kind of stuff to, ultimately Carousel Alhambra and All My Love. Those are very different. And then you've got stuff like, Phil Graffiti with Cashmere on it. That's a funky track. And they do blues songs like Ramble On. So it's always Robert Plant singing and Jimmy Page playing guitar. That yes, true. But there was progression with them, and not everybody was a fan of every Led Zeppelin album. I know people who just don't like 4. Because they like the first 3 albums. But and then I know people who hate Carousel Alhambra. I thought it was neat, but what do I know?
And you have to buy the record because that's an 8-minute track. You're not going to get that on many radio stations unless it's the overnight shift playing it.
The overnight or college radio.
I played it on college radio.
Yeah.
There was a deal on
Busy Town.
In Through the Outdoor. To my knowledge, it's the first time it happened where there were like multiple album covers and you could collect them all.
Right.
But it was sold in a brown paper bag, so you couldn't see what the cover was before you bought it.
So you wind up with 2 of the same, yeah.
Yes, you just have to keep buying them and hope for the best.
Yeah.
Now,
what is it? A pig and a poke. Buying a pig and a poke. Yeah.
The other one that's like that, and there's the only other time I can remember it being like marketed like this. And it wasn't even like a huge marketing campaign, but it was there. And if you were a collector, or if you are a collector now, you're chasing them. I think there are 30, like north of 36 different album covers for Police Synchronicity. I think I have 4 of them. that they are indeed different. And you had to seek them all out. And there are super rare ones that are all black and white, or they're all, something. And that's like a thing if you're a collector, and if you like that album, which is a good album. But I can't, those are the only two acts I can think of who did that, where they were, trying to get people to buy multiples.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that happened with the Rolling Stones. What was it? Sticky Fingers with the zipper on the cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they only made a limited edition. Then the rest of them were just, a picture of a zipper. And it was crazy because I really had the album, and, we would come, the after party was always at my house after doing the nightclub, and the girls would see the album and they immediately try to unzip it, and I'm like, no, please don't do that to my record.
Leave it alone.
Nothing to see here, folks.
Well, everybody's, curiosity gets the best of them.
That's it. They just pick up the record. You're brand new here. This is the first date. That's how you're going to treat my record? I'm a beer first, at least, will you?
Yeah. Well, the first time a guy ever said, "Don't touch my zipper,"
Howie, I don't know, Howie. You are an interesting cat, man.
Well, thank you.
Just sits there in silence, and all of a sudden he just says stuff. And it's like, whoa, that came out of Howie's mouth. All right, cool. So Eric messaged me earlier today, and he was talking about bringing up a topic. He said, I only need 5 minutes on this. We'll see how that goes. And I believe that it was, the topic was in regards to being musically inclined.
Well, just music. This is a music show.
Right.
And I just wanted to just spend 2 minutes on this. And,
Okay.
And it's a little too late for a tribute to this guy, but.
Well, it doesn't matter because this show's not going to air for like a year and a half anyway.
Well, all right, then people.
We've been putting shows in the bag for months and I haven't seen any of them.
Now, I want to pay tribute not to an artist, but to a guy that's been bringing us the music on the radio since 1970. And we all know who that is, American Top 40, Casey Kasem.
Yeah.
I always thought he was a great DJ. He did the countdown every week, the top 40. Then Ryan Seacrest took it over in 2004. And then he later on retired in 2009 because he was still doing like the top 20 and top 10. American Top 20 and Top 10, Casey Kasem back then. Then he retired, and then he passed away June 15, 2014. I remember, I don't know if you guys ever listened to Casey Kasem.
Oh, yeah.
All the time.
I remember I wanted to be this guy when I was 10 years old. There was something about him that inspired me, and like, this is what I want to do, and I thought it was great. I remember, running home to I'm going to miss the show,
Right.
That's all I was trying to get at.
Well, Casey's an interesting cat. Now, my I guess memories of Casey Kasem, my whole life. I mean, I was born in 71, so he was always there.
Yeah.
Told stories about songs. I learned a lot. I listened to his stories. I even listened to his stupid long distance vacations, but he did have cool, like little anecdotes about, and I remember a lot of this stuff. And some of the stuff I regurgitate, and people, well, you're a genius, dude. It's like, no, I listened to Casey. I remember what he said.
He didn't know it off the top of his head either. He had good scripts. I mean, he
had
wasn't
really
just
good
making it
scripts.
up on the fly. He's reading the back of records, and
He
he's
had
got his notes.
teleprompter or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
He
But,
always
we
had a
just assumed
story.
he knew that. We just, Casey knows everything. Can we listen to Casey? That's where you get your.
We would sit around the console stereo and on Sundays when I was a kid and listen to this countdown.
Yeah.
And try to guess what was number one.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, I still do it in the car. I'll put on 70s on 7 sometimes on Saturday nights. They'll do the countdown, like the repeats of the countdown. And I'll think, okay, it's 78. What have they missed? I'm trying to deductive reasoning. What song haven't they done? Oh, it's got to be Frankie Valli's Grease this week. And oh, wow, it is. But yeah, Casey was fun.
They still air them. Did you just say Sirius XM?
Yeah, 70s on
They air
7.
them on there, right? Yeah. And they do the whole. And I still Listen to him on there once in a while. I thought it was great. I don't know, there's something about him. He was intelligent. Well, he seemed intelligent. Like you guys said, he'd always talk up to the vocal like perfectly.
Yeah, hitting the post.
Notice that, right? He hit the vocal.
Yeah.
You know, he was great.
Stupid facts about Casey Kasem. I'm gonna give you 3 things you didn't care about Casey Kasem, but I'm gonna tell you anyway.
Yeah, he was Shaggy on Scooby Doo.
That's one.
That's one.
What's the next one?
Yeah.
What's the next one? You're the voice of Shaggy from Scooby Doo. What's the next one?
I don't know.
He's not the guy that does the commercial for the Boar's Head Meats, is he?
He's gone. He's no longer with us.
You made.
Well, I know Casey's no longer with us, but I'm these commercials have been around for a long time.
I don't know. Well, okay, so Casey's from Detroit.
Okay.
And he's Persian.
No.
Yep. Otherwise Iranian, but yeah, he's Persian.
Wow.
His real last name is Kasim.
Is it Kasim? Is it Casey Kasim, or was it?
I don't know the Casey part, but yes, it used to be Kasim.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So I get confused in that part of the world. I don't think Persian people consider themselves Middle Eastern, but if you think about kind of where the world was in 1970 when he got big, wow. I mean, there's a lot of people that, maybe you didn't know, were from the Middle East region. Danny Thomas was one. And then there was Casey Kasem, just off the top of my head. There were others, but those were just 2 really, really big people that, people didn't think, oh, they're, Middle Eastern or Persian or Arabic or whatever.
But he wouldn't have got it from his accent. That's for sure. He's sounded like every Midwestern guy ever.
He's from Detroit. Yeah.
Well, that comes from, pre or post World War II era, when people came over and they changed their names intentionally to Americanize and fit in, know, and, it was pretty much self-preservation, really. Because there was a lot of racist people back then.
I was talking to my my son-in-law today. One of my son-in-laws, Paulo, who's Filipino, and I don't remember what we were talking about, but he had said something about, that he had heard that there's a really large Middle Eastern population and Persian population in Detroit, and I'm like, yeah. A lot of them came there, I believe, to be engineers for the big 3 automakers. They're very educated, and they settled there. So Casey is coming from one of the big areas in the country historically that have been, pretty friendly to that those groups of people. So I don't know, but yeah, it doesn't surprise me that he sounded like the rest of us, because he was us. He was born here.
Yeah,
and,
he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
what's the third one? Because you got.
Well, he blew my third one. It was Shaggy on Scooby Doo from Detroit, and he's Persian. That's
Detroit.
3.
Okay.
Okay.
Detroit and Persian are 2 and 3. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to blow it.
No, it's okay. I don't want to be Captain Obvious over here. If you already know this stuff, tell me shut up. I'm proud to do it.
Yeah. No, I didn't know. But I just thought it would be nice. I always liked him. Anyway. I liked, the way he did the countdown. And
I don't know that anybody else ever came around that was quite that captivating for an audience, for a music audience, which probably isn't a thing anymore. Even Wolfman Jack, I don't know that he was that captivating as far as, where you just make it a point to sit down and listen to his show, especially since he had 40 songs on his show for the most part.
And he's starting with the worst ones.
We had Ghost in New York City. We had, there was tons of people. Cousin Brucey was huge on the East Coast, and he would do the same type of show that Casey Kasem did, but with a New York bend to it. Because let's face it, different regions of the country, a song could be number 1, in the Midwest, but
well,
the one in the East Coast.
Well, you're on the Billboard charts. It's pretty much a nationwide thing. And I remember Casey when I lived in Indiana. I remember Casey living in California, Oklahoma, and here. So all 4 places I ever lived, I heard Casey Kasem in 4, completely different parts of the country. Well, one could argue that Indiana's Midwest, but I think Indiana's got more of an East Coast vibe than or where I lived there anyway, where I lived in the state did than the rest of the state. But yeah, that was a nationwide top 40 show. I remember coming home from work, like working the club late and then maybe hanging out afterwards, going to dinner or whatever you did, or, go to Denny's or whatever it was. I can remember driving home, the sun rising and Casey's on the radio.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I get home sometime in the early 20s. Sometimes I get home somewhere in the lower teens, just depending on how crazy of a night it was. That was an early Sunday morning syndication for us.
Yeah.
Casey Kasem on the air, the official sign that you've stayed up too late.
And then it came on, like it would repeat, like it would come on at noon or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm sure they had to run it a few times. It's only good for a week.
It's like a 6-hour show or something like that.
Yeah, I think you could do it in 3 hours.
Could
Go
he?
from 40 to zip. Yeah, you can get in about 12, 13 songs an hour if you move it right along.
Got to be about a 4-hour
Casey didn't
show.
move it right along all the time.
I think it was a 4-hour show back then.
Boy,
And he put those
in the early
long distance
2000s.
dedications in there that nobody wanted to hear.
yeah.
But a dead
By the
dog.
time
or
that-
something.
Yeah, especially about the dog dying. Don't get them going on that because
The tirades are funny.
The tirades are pretty good.
And now,
Ponderous.
long distance
Freaking ponderous.
dedication. Going out to Brian, the long distance
Long
dedication.
distance. Yeah.
Retrospectively, we can listen to them now and we adore them. But I mean, they were really just one run and done. You played it for 7 days, and he was already in the vault making another top 40 for the following week.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you really
Brian,
it's August 2nd, it's 1983. I mean, usually there were dates.
Mhm.
You couldn't replay it 3 weeks from now and be like, oh.
and Brian writes, "Dear Casey, Jason, the show tonight. Could you please play a song for Jay? Thanks."
Where the hell are you?
I want Queen. I'm in love with my car. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. Yeah, I touch myself to vinyls, something.
Oh yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, that's actually my first job in top 40 radio. This radio station I work for around here. I babysat the boards on Sunday mornings when Casey Kasem played. Then when I got Saturday shifts, we did the same sort of deal, but we used the Rick D's weekly top 40.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know
Weekly
when about
top
Rick D's
40.
came in and
Yeah.
how heavy he was trying to compete, or if he was just trying to do his own thing.
I thought he was a
What?
replacement.
Hmm.
I thought that's what he was supposed to be. And then it was
Maybe he
Nice.
did. Yeah.
In fact, I thought they called it Casey's Top 40 with Rick Dees for a while.
You know what? I think you're right.
Hmm.
I do think.
There might have been a period of time.
Yeah.
If I remember right. Because they
Could
called it
be a
Casey's
Leno
Top-
Letterman
yeah.
situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Or Carson, Leno situation.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's a better way to put it.
What else was I had it on the tip of my tongue. What the hell was it? Oh, I remember. I recently watched, and if you haven't seen it, check it out. The Wham documentary on Netflix. I don't know if
It was very good.
there was, and I thought of Casey because they were talking about how George stayed the night over at Andrew's house, and he left a note on the door, and he misspelled something, and it's like, "Wake me up before you go," and he put an extra "go" there.
Mm.
That's how they came up with the song "Wake Me Up Before You Go." And they were telling the story, and I was just thinking to myself, I've heard this story. Casey told this story. I remember Casey telling this story, so I already knew it, and that was thanks to Casey Kasem.
All right, we're almost done, and here comes Jay.
Sorry, guys.
That's the finish line.
Not a huge line at the bar tonight. Sorry about that.
You're welcome.
Is this an Irish hello?
Exactly. Getting in from the getting some water.
You get out of bed, they're already sitting on your sofa.
So there's got to be a story behind that shirt, Jay.
Had all these people get in my room. You know what? I needed to change up my style a little bit for Atlantic City. So I'm trying to go shuffleboard circa 1975 AARP.
I like it. I like it.
That thing will move. That thing will move.
I do too. Michelle pointed it out. She's like, "What do you think of this?" I'm like, "I like it."
Yeah, it's
yeah. A little color into
It isn't like getting a discount on their coffee when you walk in. They don't even have to ask you for your card. You're like,
yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
Play that card. I'm old. What do you mean? I'm confused. Why do you think the car is on the curb? I'm old.
Talking about the discount bins for albums. I guess you did pretty good with the discount bin.
As a matter of fact, I did. I got a hat with it.
You did? Oh,
nice.
I was going to ask if it had matching bottom slacks. You know, it's the whole ensemble.
Yeah.
I am 100% confident no one's going to see this show until like Halloween. I mean, I know that.
Yeah, I should have worn orange.
So it's really stupid to even attempt to talk about anything topical because
yeah,
it's so dated by the time it comes around.
Yeah.
But you just reminded me, Jay, that I have to make it a point to go somewhere, I don't know where, and buy myself a few fresh shirts for Atlantic City because otherwise I look like I'm wearing the same goddamn thing all the time.
Yeah, I've done that. I've still got a shirt. This is how pathetic I am. The Lady Gaga show was 2008.
Right.
I have that shirt upstairs. I just can't seem to get rid of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, it'll eventually come back in style to have the big ace with the daggers and the dragon on the back. That's coming back, right?
I was wearing those stupid soccer polos for a while that were like striped.
Yep.
And I got a bunch of pictures with those on. And I'm like, oh my, because they're really loud, cool shirts.
Yeah,
I'm like, God, I got to look at these stupid shirts for the next.
They're at every show that you have a picture of. You're like, yeah, okay, there's Expo, there's
I can't tell what year it is.
There's Europe.
The shirt could be 13, could be 12, could be 10.
Yeah.
Now, where you kind of luck out, Jay, is that you've got the Pioneer.
I have a uniform that I can get away with. So you're.
It almost looks like you're wearing Dickies.
I am. That's all Dickies.
Are they Dickies?
Yeah, the shirt and pants are Dickies because those pants will last you 20 shows.
Right.
And for $38, they've got the pockets, which I love. So you can put crap like hand sanitizer, USB drives, all that stuff in them.
White Claw.
Yeah. White Claw. Got to think ahead, Brian. I like where you're going with that.
Line that pocket with tinfoil. Keep it cool.
And Jay, I don't care what they say. I like that shirt. It's amazing what they can do with curtains today.
The Carol Burnett show called.
Oh, wow.
I saw it in the window and it caught my eye. Wasn't that what she said?
Yeah, there you go. We'll be here till midnight. Don't forget your bartenders.
Yeah. Try the clam. It's delicious tonight.
Well, you know, it's funny because last night I was in the room. I kind of joined in progress after the shows were recorded. I wasn't there for very long because of unforeseen circumstances with the power grid. But I remember, I think it was John who brought up some kind of TV show where it was about the Boston comic scene. Or maybe Jay, maybe you brought it up.
Oh, yes. When stand-up stood up.
When stand-up stood up. I think it was last night you brought that up.
I did.
Yeah.
And you know what? The person that I can think of that most resembles that culture is probably Eric.
Oh, yeah.
Eric has got that. I mean, you do too. You're sharp in your own way, but Eric, he's got the timing of a stand-up guy.
And he's got the accent. So when he opens his mouth, you know it could either be really funny or like you should probably run.
Yeah,
right.
Say 5 Hail Marys.
I get a lot of Rodney Dangerfield vibes.
Yeah,
sure.
Probably,
I don't know if he's an influence, but
quick hitters. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a long story.
Right. And well, Stephen Wright was the same way. They're all quick hitters.
Oh, yeah.
And make you think and you'd be like, oh, wait, I'm still thinking about the joke 4 jokes ago. And he's just like,
Stephen Wright's routines are the hardest to remember because there's like 400 pieces to it. You're like, I'm going to remember like 5 of these. He told like 600 jokes, and I'm going to remember 4 walking out the door and feel like a moron.
yeah.
I heard
Jim
something.
Hedberg was a lot easier to follow because he'd talk so slow because he's so high all the time.
By the way, Howie, check out the Joe Rogan Stephen Wright podcast from a few weeks ago. And it's funny because Stephen Wright dives into some of his comedy and he's like, I write a line. I think it's funny. I do it. He goes, well, when you were on the Tonight Show, he goes, the one line that I brought in to check the audience was, I remember 4 years ago. No, wait, it was yesterday. And the audience blew up. And he's like, okay, it's that kind of audience. Like that was one of his test lines. Yeah. I remember 4 years ago. No, wait, it was last night.
Yeah.
Right.
Or yesterday or something. Yeah.
You know, speaking of that type of timing, I guess I've been so busy, I didn't realize that Paul Rubens passed away yesterday.
Oh yeah, Pee Wee. Did anyone hear how? Was it just
cancer? He'd been battling cancer for 6 years.
Oh, yeah, God.
And I had some thoughts on him musically that I thought were interesting, believe it or not. But I kind of went, I'll get to that in a little bit.
Yeah, please do.
Well, it's no big deal, but there was this rabbit hole that I went down last night as soon as the power came back on. So I was on the computer because there was nothing else to do in the shop. I didn't feel like cleaning. And I was watching this interview he did at South by Southwest. And he was just being himself. And this was like from 2011. He was talking about acting tips or comedic tips or something like that. And he said, have you ever told a story where, you know, it's like a long, I was thinking of UJ, where it's kind of a long story.
Yeah.
And the more you're telling the story, the more you're feeling like your audience just isn't into it. And then like at the end of the story, it's just very non-climactic to your audience. You thought it was going to be great, but it just isn't working out that way. So I got a way you get out of it every time. And like, tell the story, end the story. And when you're done, pause for a moment and just say, I love that story. It's an out every time.
Yeah.
But nobody can argue with you. It's like,
no. Yeah, no, that's a good story. Yeah, I like that too. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked a little bit last night about Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking about, everything you were talking about last night.
And I'm seeing these vicious rumors, now that like just, he was caught in an adult theater back in the day before there was internet, and he was watching porn and doing something
in a porn theater.
But now they've.
It's not like he was in The Little Mermaid doing it,
He was a pedophile and this and that. He wasn't a pedophile. He was an adult in an adult theater.
He got busted.
Yeah.
I had a young kid, late 20s. I said, yeah, man, did you hear Pee Wee Herman died? He goes, oh, yeah, didn't he get caught doing that in the theater? And I'm like,
yes.
Wait a second, that's what you associate with? And I said to him, have you ever seen his show? I don't know. I go, do yourself a big favor. Go to YouTube and just look up Pee Wee Herman and check out his Playhouse. And when you see Samuel L. Jackson with long hair in a cowboy outfit,
Jerry Curl.
Hysterical.
Fishburne.
Jerry Curl.
Yeah,
Lawrence Fishburne. Lawrence Fishburne. I apologize. Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, Samuel Jackson.
It's
fun.
That really changed the tone of the show. Of Samuel,
like Ice Cube.
Keep in mind, I think we're still recording.
It was very funny, but it was also when you look at the period, it was very funny and very ahead of itself because it was a cartoon that you first started watching, going, "Wait a second, I find this funny, and I'm in my 20s." Is this supposed to be funny for kids or for adults?
What's neat?
Well, realized, it's for adults. Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
So
definitely,
Pee Wee Herman. A lot of people talk about Pee Wee's Playhouse was their first real big exposure to him, or the movie. My first exposure.
Cowboy Curtis. Yes, Lori.
I saw him on. He was in Cheech and Chong movies and stuff, and he was in the Blues Brothers. But the first time I saw the character Pee Wee Herman, it was an HBO comedy special.
Yeah.
And it's what they based Pee Wee's Playhouse off of. And it was probably, it was a child. It was a more adult humor, and they cleaned it up for the Playhouse.
Was he growling as one of those groups, Brian?
Yes. Yes. And that's where he came up with the character.
That's where he came up with the character. They needed to come up with something. And he's like, I got this idea.
Well, I only know all this because I just watched the interview. But he was a groundling. And he said, whenever they do improvisational stuff, I was bad at it. So I would just make faces and people would laugh at my face. I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
And then I came up with this character, and he said, my goal with the character was to make audiences wonder if that was a character or just a guy.
Yeah.
You know, and he said the other cool thing about Pee-wee is no one's got to figure him out. Like, you get Pee-wee right away. You watch him, it's like, well, what's this guy? So I understand where he's coming from. I may not empathize with it, but I understand where he's coming from. You didn't have to guess who he was.
There's no reading between the lines.
No, he's just Pee-wee Herman.
No, he told Fallon when
undertone.
he was on with Jimmy, and he's like, I wanted to be a character that wanted to be a comic, but could never remember the punchline. So I wanted to be a bad comic. So if I could remember the punchline, I was still in character.
Right.
And I was like, that's genius.
Just make faces.
Yeah. You know.
And then you brought up Pee-wee Herman, and back in the 90s, Joeski Love put out a single, Pee-wee's Dance. You remember that?
Yep. Yeah, I do. It was a remix of Tequila.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Which was the dance everybody did in the 80s when you put on
Yeah.
as a DJ.
By the way, Howie put in the chat real quick, Brian, just if you didn't see it, I just saw it that it looks like we're coming up on the time.
Oh, well,
I just joined. I didn't want to start talking.
We've actually got about 10 minutes because we started at 10 after.
Oh, okay.
But we could end the show and do another show. But all I wanted to say, just to wrap up my thoughts, so I'm not talking about Pee-wee in the next show, is that speaking of the incident where he was arrested, it was funny because they had mentioned Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and he was in that.
Yep.
And he was also the father in the Batman movie that was the second Michael Keaton one, Batman Returns.
Oh, he was?
He was the Penguin's dad in that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. Yep. That was kind of the Easter egg in there. He did not even kind of look like Paul Rubens. Like
he was in the movie Blow, by the way.
I loved him.
I remember that.
Derek for real.
He did a good job in it as an actor.
He was funny in the Cheech and Chong movies too. I always thought he was funny in there. But anyway, what I was going to say is of course, things kind of didn't look good for him after the arrest. So the Pee-wee thing went away. And they had the mugshot, and he looked nothing like Pee-wee Herman in the mugshot. So he went ahead.
He had long hair.
Yeah. Well, he accepted, and he had a goatee and stuff. He accepted the role in this goofy Buffy Vampire Slayer movie. Said, and in his contract, it said specifically, I am allowed to make myself look a lot like my mugshot. So he wanted to look like his mugshot in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, cash in on that too. Sure.
I don't know if you remember, Brian, but back when MTV...
I am to look as much like my mugshot as possible. That's what it was, yeah.
Were a thing to watch. The following year, Pee-wee Herman came out and opened the show.
Oh, yeah. You heard any good jokes lately?
Heard any good jokes lately, yeah. And I thought that was the ballsiest thing ever. I'm like,
oh, it's so funny. I forgot to laugh. Yeah.
You owned it. Talk about disarming it and saying, go ahead, talk about it because I just did. That's genius.
Oh, the other thing I'll say, since we got a minute, because I left you hanging on the music thing with Pee-wee.
Yeah, I'm curious about this one.
There was a Julia Jumpin' Perez thing, Chicago house music back in '95, I believe. House Sound of Chicago Mega Mix. One of my first introductions to like real Chicago house music, with all the big ones. With where's my brain? Marshall Jefferson and stuff like that. So this Mega Mix had a lot of samples from Pee-wee's Big Adventure in it.
Oh.
And it was the first time I'd ever heard people use like movie dialogue kind of like in their mix.
Oh, that's
that inspired me to kind of do the same thing for a while. I was doing a lot of that. I was putting, like pop culture films, like little lines, into my mixes there for a while in the 90s. They think of it like a go ahead, make my day kind of sample kind of thing. But they did like in like the little B sections, they were doing the scene where he gets pulled over by the police and, says, am I stepping out of the car? No, not at all, officer. That was a thing in the break. Want to take a picture, it'll last longer. And then the whole thing where he's going to the bar. And don't you know this is the private club for the Satan's helpers? It's off limits. Oh, my mistake. That was all in the mix. So
that's awesome.
It was. I was just thinking because it was so new at the time. You know, that was the hit movie at the time and the big VHS at the time. So they had all of these cool little audio clips they were using in the mega mix. It was topical. Unlike the show when you see it at Thanksgiving.
Right. You did good ones. My biggest claim to fame on doing a movie into a song was when a certain service in the late 90s afforded me getting voice drops. Yeah. And I got I'll misquote it. So I'm going into this knowing I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But it's something to the effect of, it's 105 miles to Chicago. We have half a pack of cigarettes, a full tank of gas.
And we're wearing sunglasses.
And we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it. And I downloaded that and I would play that and then mix into Sweet Home Chicago.
Yeah.
And I thought I was just like the Cats. People would always come up and be like, dude, what version is this?
That's
like,
right.
I did it myself. Chicago, this CD has the little vocal, and this CD has Sweet Home Chicago, all 7 minutes of it. I'm going to play the whole thing until that drum beat where I mix out that like doodle 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 doodle, and then I'm going to get out of the song, or else I'm going to have to be stuck until 7 minutes.
I've thought about a mix intro, like if I do like one of those mega mixes, like I did last year and the year before, and when we were in AC.
Like the Jive Bunny stuff.
No, remember I did the
the one you did, the house one, that, or the freestyle. That was awesome.
Well, I did the freestyle one, but before that I did the like the New Jack Energy.
Yeah.
The 90s one.
The Teddy Riley thing.
Yeah. I mean, it was that beat. It was like, you know, everything that sounded like, you know, I Love Your Smile or Girl, You Know It's True or Close to You by Maxi Priest. But I always thought it would be cool because I used to hear Julian Jumpin' Perez do this. He was big on that. And he was the first guy I ever heard do that with the Pee Wee thing. But I thought about doing like this intro where I use movie clips. And so whenever I've been watching movies for the last 40 years, I've been thinking about when they say Brian. And like there's a line in Breakfast Club where Molly Ringwald says, "That's not very funny, Brian. I want to take that." And then Matrix, take the red pill and see how far the rabbit hole goes. Little things like that I wanted to incorporate in there that I thought would be funny.
Real quick.
But I really wish, Sammy, the character in Pulp Fiction, his name wasn't Brett. I wish it was Brian. So I could check out the big brain on Brian, but it's Brett. So it doesn't work.
Well, it's funny you say that because you know him, Brett Belcastro, AKA DJ Second Nature.
Oh,
he used to do his video sets. He told me it took him weeks to come up with that ending where it's like he got one thing that said DJ and then Tony Soprano says Second Nature. And somebody tuned him into it. And this is like, you know, early 2000. And he had to figure, he had to copy it, get the video for it, and then integrate it. So it's like DJ Second Nature. And it was like, people were like, "Oh my God, how'd you get him to do that?" It's like, it was still so new that people thought he somehow got Tony Soprano to say the name Second Nature. It's like, no, you just have to be like Brian did. You have to watch things methodically.
Just bank it.
You got to start watching Family Guy. Get like Stewie and Peter. It's saying Brian all the time. And
I've never watched Family Guy.
That'd be a good one.
I've never watched that show.
Talking to the dog. The dog is Brian. So
there'd be something on there every week.
Yes, easily.
Yeah, I thought take the red pill would be funny, but
it would be.
Let's do the next show because we got to do two because we're not going to be here next week.
All right.
This one you're going to see at Christmas time, so we're going to do a Christmas show next.
Happy Hanukkah, everyone.
Christmas in August. So we'll see you then.
Put on my red and green lights.